Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining today and for listening to our presentation. My name's Ryan Smith. I'm with Shell Canada, and this is, or will be, coming up my sixth term as a judge. I had a break of a year, but I've been working with the Emerald Foundation as a volunteer for the last 7.5 years or so. And today I'm going to give you my perspective as a judge, so judging from a judge's perspective. Switch this. So I'm going to talk about how I got to be a judge. I'm going to talk about how nominations are handed out to the judges. And then there's 2 rounds of judging that we do. And I'm going to talk about the first round of judging and how that goes and what that looks like. And then the second round of judging and how that goes and what that looks like. So how did I get selected for judging? Well, the simple answer was I was asked. As Gregory mentioned before, the Alberta Emerald Foundation looks to bring together a group of volunteer judges with a diverse perspectives and experiences from all across Alberta. And that's one of the reasons why I actually really like judging. You get to meet a lot of people from all across Alberta, from various different backgrounds. And some of the judges, they might be academics, they could be scientists and engineers, they could be small business owners, teachers, lawyers, representatives from not-for-profit, and also various industries like construction or the energy industry. And so, where possible, they try and pull representatives from all across this large province. Alberta isn't just Calgary, and it's not just Edmonton. And so they try and get a sampling of judges from, Peace River, Fort McMurray, and Lethbridge, and Red Deer, and Medicine Hat, and some of the other small rural centers. Judges typically serve a 3-year term, and the hours per year can vary depending on the number of nominations, but it's typically loaded kind of up front in the year for sort of judging season. But it's not uncommon to spend 100+ hours in some years doing, reviews of nominations and participating on that. And I'll give a little bit of a pitch to the Alberta Emerald Foundation, but if you have a passion for sustainability and for environmental stewardship, then I would consider volunteering with the Alberta Emerald Foundation. Get on the mailing list, help out on an event, let them get to know you, and then perhaps you'll be asked to be a judge or perhaps even serve on the board. So how are nominations handed out to the judges? So of course, as you've seen, the submission of the nominations are through the online system. And so the Alberta Emerald Foundation compiles all of this information and they pull out some brief specifics like the title, the nominee, maybe a bit of the subject, and they send all of this out in an Excel spreadsheet to the judges. So that we can identify any potential conflicts of interest, because of course you don't want a judge judging, their own organization's nomination. That's just not fair. And so of course the judges will send back a list of potential conflicts of interest, and the Alberta Emerald Foundation will then, decide how they're going to split up and break out those nominations. And so the judges will then get a batch of nominations sent to them via the system. And typically, it doesn't always work out nicely, but typically a judge will review all the nominations within a specific category. So if the category is small business, it might be possible that I could judge all of the nominations within that small business category. In some cases, a judge will receive more than one category to review. In many cases, that's true. Often I'll get 3 or 4 categories where I'll have to review all the nominations. Again, it's all based on the numbers of nominations that are received. Now, in some cases, not all nominations are reviewed by every judge in this first round, but each nomination is going to be reviewed by a minimum number of judges each year. And again, this will be based on the number of nominations received. So what does the first round of judging look like? This is going to be probably a little bit different from judge to judge to judge. We're all different. We all kind of look for different things. So I'm going to give you sort of my perspective on how I judge. And so it starts with reviewing time. You know, I'll look for how concise a nomination is. So the response boxes limit the number of words to a response and help keep the nomination form smaller. I'll look at the additional supporting documentation, videos, podcasts, news articles, brochures, web links, and all of these things add to the time. And so, you know, it's not uncommon for a judge to spend many hours reviewing a single nomination, or at least it's not uncommon for me to spend many hours reviewing a single nomination, particularly if it's a well-written nomination and it's a well-supported nomination. And while I can't speak for other judges, I typically sort all my nominations for review in the category they're in. So in a single sitting, I will try and do a brief review of all of the nominations in a particular category. And this could take me a day in a particular category, just so I can get kind of a flavor of what I'm reviewing, what the nomination's going to talk about, because you can have widely different nominations in the same category. And then often the next day I will sit down, and that's where the real kind of judging of a nomination sort of happens. It's often a day-long event for me, and if are some particularly good nominations, it could take even longer than a day to review all of that material. But probably what you're looking for is, what do I normally look at when I'm judging? And the first thing I look at is, does the nomination fit the category that it's in? And I know Gregory talked about, you know, we have a lot of different categories now. How do I choose? You know, try and fit what you think is the best category for your nomination. And while the judges do have the option of moving your category or moving you to a different category if it will benefit you or your nomination, it's not always the case. And so trying to make sure that it fits the category it's in really helps the judges that are reviewing that grouping of nominations in a category kind of compare similar types of nominations. In the event that we decide, hey, we're going to move this nomination to a different category because it, you know, potentially will benefit that nomination, you know, you could then be, I don't want to, it's not a disadvantage because we wouldn't move the nomination to a category if it would be a disadvantage, but the other judges in the new category may not have seen your nomination. And so that's just something to think about. So it is important to think about the category that you are going to submit on. And the category that you're going to submit on will also help shape some of the responses to your questions. So if you're nominating in a project in the water category, you should really try and focus all of your responses on water. Your project, you know, may have other supporting benefits like wildlife conservation or GHG reductions, that type of thing. But these could easily be detailed in your supporting information. So, you know, try and focus those, you know, the 250 word sections on the category, on the topic that you've kind of chosen and selected. It really helps the judges review just the vast quantities of information that we're getting from all of these. And it also helps when we're comparing really good nominations, you know, where it's potentially a toss-up on, you know, this one or that one, if everything is concise and focused. You know, looking at a response, does it answer the question? Does the response concisely explain the project and showcase the amazing work of the person and organization? So for example, you know, who benefits or benefited from your work? You know, the response should concisely answer that. It should not go into details about how the work was done or who was involved or, you know, or how they were involved. But if you have information about some of that, you know, that's great. And that can be included in the, you know, attachment section. But if you have information about how many people benefited, you know, how long they benefited or will benefit from this work, then that might also help in fleshing out a really good response to that question. So answer the questions that was asked in a particular section. Has your project or initiative had a positive impact on the environment? So when answering questions, keep in mind that the judges look for things that set it apart from other environmental work. Your project may be a recycling project, but I recycle at home. I recycled at school and I recycle at work, and many others across this province do the same. So how is it what you are doing setting the bar higher for yourself or for your organization, and hopefully for other people across this province that can then look at your project and go, wow, that's amazing. I could easily implement that idea where I work or where I am. And then how is it also changing habits, or how is it changing the systems or influencing others to do similar work as what you've done? How can it inspire a province and even beyond our province? And looking at this and focusing your responses on that help make your story fully represented in your nomination. But again, you want to keep in mind the category your nomination is in. You also want to ensure that you're providing quantifiable or qualifiable data to support. Trina did an amazing job showing the types of things, and as she was going through her presentation, looking at the statistics, those are things that check the box. That these are amazing. You can clearly see what what that positive benefit and what that impact was, and it really helps the judges when they're looking at scoring a particular category. Do you have numbers of people that have volunteered to help? Do you have numbers of people who attended open houses or events? Do you have hectares of land restored or turned back into sustainable environments? Having the data can speak volumes. Now, not all projects are going to have the same volumes of data that, say, Trina's project had. But it's likely that your project will have some sort of data that can help explain the story. Being concise and focused on the question, keeping in mind, again, the category of the nomination, it's kind of important. So I want to keep saying that, but then I'll look at the supporting materials. Do the supporting materials help the nomination? And do they support the responses that you've given? So for example, photos or short videos are great, whereas a 100-page report, in some cases, may not get fully read by all of the judges. I'm kind of one of those nerds. I'll probably read every page that's submitted because I'm like that. But when you have 70 nominations to review, if they're all hundreds of pages long, we only have so much time in a day. So, thinking about what you're submitting for that extra information really could really help benefit you in your application, and also help the judges. If you provide a web link, that web link should be easy to navigate to find the pertinent information that you want us to see. It's great to direct us to, say, your homepage, but if a judge has to spend a bunch of time trying to find information on your web page to help answer a question, we may not get to all of it. Again, only so much time in a day. So helping us try and find that information really makes a big difference. And also remember that all judges are different. I know Gregory had said, some like bullet points, some like full sentences. I'm either way, bullet point agnostic. I just want to see that it's concise for me, and that you've answered the question fully. And think about, what might work for you to explain your story in the easiest way. And there's a reason why there's so many judges that will review each individual nomination that's made, because we're all going to look at it differently. We're all going to bring different perspectives to the judging. And of course, judges have the ability to provide feedback during the judging process. And Alberta Emerald Foundation collects this feedback and then provides it back to the nominators for future consideration. It's not uncommon to see nominations in multiple years. We've seen that a lot. Um, and you can see where subsequent nominations from an organization have taken that feedback that the Alberta Emerald Foundation has collected, implemented it into their nomination, and they have created absolutely amazing nominations in the following year. Yeah, so hopefully that helps. So then once I've done all of my scoring of the nominations, I hit submit. The Alberta Emerald Foundation will compile all of that information. And the second round of judging is typically done in person, although last year we had to do it, remotely, and I'm assuming again this year we'll do it remotely. But it's all of the judges on board. We're all there to review the highest scored nominations. And so the Alberta Emerald Foundation will compile the score rankings from that initial round. They'll select the top 4 or 5 nominations for a particular category. And then each of those nominations will be assigned to a judge who reviewed that particular category to present. And so they'll give a quick 5-10-minute presentation on a particular nomination, what they liked about it, where they saw issues, how they felt about the nomination, and kind of give the rest of the judges who may not have seen that particular nomination a flavor for it. The judges take turns doing these presentations. And then it's basically an open roundtable discussion about the nominations in that particular category. In some years, it's very easy to select finalists. Usually there's, in many cases, 3 that are just so outstanding. You're like, that one, and everyone is aligned quickly. In some cases, picking a recipient can be a little more difficult. And in some cases, we've had to take the day off and come back the next day, and fresh mindset and kind of rehash the positives and benefits of selecting a particular recipient. But in the end, we've always come down to a group consensus where we all agree that's the recipient. And so helping us in your nomination by making it concise, focusing on those questions, providing really good supporting information that's easy to flip through or easy to pick out those extra supporting benefits really makes a difference in the quality of a nomination, and helps us score a particular nomination.